Welcome to Press Room,
where all are welcome.
And today's topic is all about dating, marriage, the ups, the downs. I'm sure we can all relate to this. Hi, I'm Sonam.
Hi, I'm Priya.
And hi, I'm Rashmi.
Ooh, this is such an exciting episode since 2 out of 3 of us are single.
And I'm married. Single and ready to mingle, hey ladies.
Single, ready to mingle. So whoever listeners are single.
So this is becoming your dating profile as well, is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's my biodata.
Biodata? Please call me.
Actually, to go into biodatas, why don't we go into, did anyone have a biodata?
What you mean, like on Shadi.com?
Like as in like
your actual, like through the family biodata?
Through the family. Through the family.
And what do you mean by biodata though?
Just like, you know, who you are, what you do, about your family's upbringing and all of that.
So I know at the Gurdwara, they would do sheets. I never was on this because I refused. But there was a sheet which just had male, female, age group. I'm doing with it an accent because, you know, profession, family background, and all of that BS. I remember there was that. But I thankfully was not on any list other than being in the periphery of everyone's mind. And, you know, that's how we were invited to Chai.
Mingle.
Yeah. I was invited to Chai a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, and told to wear something nice. That would be my giveaway. I was like, yeah.
No, I never had one, but my experience or exposure to biodata was India abroad. I would see the articles, like the ads. Male, 25, Jane, etc., tall, like all the stuff.
Never married or divorcee with one kid. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a bio. I think my family has a secret one for me. But I remember my mom one time, I came home, I don't know if it was after college or like from New York when I like my first job there. And my mom's hiding in her closet and she's like, yes, she works in investment banking. She's 20 something. She's an artist, but she needs a man from America. Like, what is going on? And why are you in the closet hiding? Clearly, you didn't want me to hear this.
She needs a man.
She needs
really, auntie?
No, she needs a man from America. Like, it can't be an Indian man from India.
Oh, God. That is crazy, people. Like so I've been married over 20 years. I met my husband through friends. And I remember as I was growing up, I was one of the younger girls in my extended family, but I was always one of the taller ones. And I was geeky as hell. I had the sideburns. I had like big horrible glasses. I had bushy eyebrows. But I was, you know, always poo-pooed aside because of that by boys. But the women would always be like, oh, lambi kuri kaun hai? And my daddy would always say, leave her alone. She's too young. Go and see my other grandchildren. But because of my height, everyone would sort of spot me. But as I grew older and finally got rid of my sideburns and realized how to do eyebrows, and as I got older, people would start trying to introduce me to guys. And it would always end up being, let's go to Auntie so-and-so's house. We're going to go and have some chai and wear this outfit. And that's as soon as they would say that, I was like, I know exactly where this was going. And it would piss the hell off to me. I would get so annoyed because it would put me in a really awkward position. And it was almost like I was being pushed into it. And it was always some auntie who had found a guy who was either a doctor or something else. And I would go with it. I thought, you know what, let me just see. But I don't think I was ready anyway. And I remember even taking the mick once when one of the aunties actually said to me, Rashmi, come, take the chai. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like they do in the movies. And I remember taking the tea, and I remember being so sarcastic, but in a funny way. I mean, I wasn't being rude. I was being sarcastic. I was like, oh, this is so Bollywood. I'll make the chai for everyone, shall I? And I was like, listen, if you're going to take me, you're going to take me as I am. I'm not going to pretend that I'm like this very simple,
Sidi Savi.
Savitri. Respectful, but I'm not going to pretend. And I had to bring that little sarcastic kind of funniness that if you're going to appreciate this, then we can talk.
You know what's funny? This story is so relatable because our entire culture has gone through the same exact thing. Every single female has gone through that same exact thing where like there's like a surprise visit and you had to wear something. And it's so interesting because it is just this cycle in our community that women in our community don't know anything else. And that's such a shame because look at us right now. The three of us are so successful. And it's not because we're married or single in our cases, or we're not any worse off because we are single, right? Like, it's like people always base your success based off of if you're married and if you have children. Like, it is like the craziest thing in our culture. And I think we can only really speak for our own culture right now because I'm sure everyone goes through the same thing. But in this segment, we're only going to talk about our Desi culture.
Mine was a little bit more extreme.
Oh, God.
I was rebellious. I didn't follow the whole, I need to be this straight girl, like I need to be studious, I need to cook and clean in the house. Yeah. I wasn't that girl. I mean, I knew how to cook and clean. I knew how to do all of that stuff, but I wanted other pieces of identity for myself. So I really rebelled through high school, through college, and it got to a point my mom would threaten me every so often. I'm sending you to India. I'm sending you to India. It was so extreme for me. And all I could think about, well, why is it that I have to create an identity just because I get married? Like, it just didn't make any sense. How is that making who Priya is? It just, and then, but in the back of my head, I'd get so scared that I'm like, okay, I need to become more, I need to be less rebellious. I need to make sure that I don't cause any more trouble. That was my upbringing. And then there was one time a family friend introduced me to another guy. He was in med school. He took a break, wanted to do some research, and everybody was pushing me to him. Everybody. And I actually tried. Yeah. And it just didn't fit the bill for me. And, and every time, and I'm going to jump a little bit, but every time I was in a committed relationship, my anxiety would go high. And I think, in a nutshell, I think being in a relationship and getting married made me scared. And that was my reaction. So it's an allergic reaction to the idea of marriage, basically. So for me, it was a completely different ball game.
I was going to say mine is kind of similar to you in that aspect. I mean, I grew up literally with 8 guys. Like, I was the only girl. So I was always like, why do I keep getting questioned? Or why do I have to keep going and helping out with the kitchen stuff while the boys are watching TV, right? So my rebellion was more so, hold on, like, why is there a clear distinction of male versus female activities here? And same, like, I think my parents probably hid a lot to try to introduce me to someone, but I was very open of like, I don't want to be married right now. Like, I don't want to be in a relationship. And I moved quite a lot for my job too. But it's funny because all throughout school, like until high school and even college, no boys. As soon as I graduate, Sonam, why aren't you in a relationship?
Oh,
You didn't allow me to date. And now I'm supposed to like be in a committed relationship / married by 23. Like, I just graduated at 21 or whatever age I was. Like, it's crazy how it's just such a weird thing in our culture where it's like, no boys. And then all of a sudden it's like, why are you single? What?
My parents, when they got married, they literally did not see each other until the day of the wedding.
Crazy.
Which is insane. And they can't be without each other. It's crazy. They've been married so many decades. But It's so interesting to me that they've gone from that to where we are now, and people are allowed to openly date and all of that stuff. Whereas when I was growing up, you couldn't date, and if you were, it had to be in secret, and then you had to make sure you were going to get married to that person. And it was so much more difficult if you didn't. There was a stigma attached. My parents' generation, it was all about, like you say, that trajectory. You study, you get a degree, you get a professional job, and then you get married and you have kids. And to your point, and then when does that happen if you're not allowed to date?
Yeah.
Right. And the cycle. But with my daughter, even though she's 11, when we talk about trajectory, I don't say when you get married, when you have kids. I say if you get married, if you have children. And so in her mind already, it's not like you have to do this. It's if you decide to do this. And I will always be there for her during that journey. And I think it's important for her to meet boys as well in terms of seeing what they're like. Of course, I'll prepare her with the right tools and have relationships, have her heart broken so she understands what that feels like. But when she does if she ends up with that partner who becomes a husband, she's fully aware of what she should expect, the kind of partner she should have in all aspects of the word.
I think you need tools like that. Like, I don't know, Priya, if you think that you had anxiety when you were in relationships because you were either dating to be rebellious, right? Like the more they would say no, then you would go out and date a different race, or you would date an older guy, younger guy, whatever. Everything that your parents didn't want, right? Because you weren't allowed to date. Like you didn't have the tools to date, that by the time you were with someone, you're like, what do I even like? I don't even understand. Like, right. I feel like that even today at 33, when I'm still dating, and I'm getting to a point where I'm like, all right, what are like the boxes of like bare fucking minimum of do you like me? Are we compatible? And then we'll like look at everything else. But then I'm like, oh, what do I like? I don't understand, because I didn't really date that much when I was younger in my 20s. I dated more in my my late 20s to early 30s.
My parents were strict, so that like obviously a lot of Desi parents were strict, but mine were super strict compared to other kids around me. So I think it debilitated me to figure out what I wanted and what I deserved also. Yes. Do you know what I mean? So that was hard for me. And then when I would date guys, and I would secretly date these guys, I was in long-term relationships, but I would hide them from my parents. And when they would find out, they're like, why? What does he do? Why? He's not in our culture. He's not from our background. He's not educated. Like all of these lists would just come out. I'm like, wait a second, but this guy is educated. He does come from our background. He is Desi at least, and he is smart, and I have fun with him. It would just be a list of things that I did for my own identity, or what I thought I wanted for myself. But at the end of the day, I mean, obviously those relationships didn't work because there were other issues, but that was for me to find out.
But you know what was never on their list? Does that man make you happy? It was never. It was always never a question. Education. How's their family? The culture. This never. Does he make you happy? Yeah, it's never a question.
Love comes afterwards.
Yeah,
and then you don't want to meet him.
But why? He's a good doctor. No, his family is good.
No, but here's my thing. You do the biodata, then you do the chai vai, right? Well, it's a little bit reversed, so do the chai vai now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Come on. That's when you get to know who the person is. You're not allowing that, you know? I mean, it's different now, but that's what it was 30 years ago for us, right? I come from that generation. But also the generation I come from is Bollywood really had an effect on us as well.
The lovey-dovey. I mean, it's like the Disney world, right? Like everything a happy ending, and the prince comes to get the princess from like the above. Like, yeah, it's all kind of similar.
So what is dating like right now for you guys? Like, I can't even begin to think about what it would have been like if I had to do what you guys have to do in terms of trying to meet people to date and then potentially get married to or have as a long-term relationship. What is it really like? What is really working? What isn't working?
The dating apps are not working for me.
Yeah, I think the dating apps really um really made dating made
Harding?
dating it made dating, because like dating apps, right? Like it's kind of like, people say this all the time, it's like a roster. You're like, all right, how many people like me? Who then from that, like who's number one, two, three? Like number three, I love that person so much. We have a great time. But like number two, she's just hotter. And I feel like that, and I'm saying this from a male's perspective because they do actually do this a lot. There's a roster and everyone's in the palm of your hand. You have a list of people. That I think that's why dating is harder, because people are more accessible in that aspect. So there's not effort. And again, I don't want to just shit on the males. Like I know females are just as hard on the men because they have expectations, a little too big of an expectation. But it's, from my dating experience, every single man I've actually had a really great time with, I had met organically, like at a party or just sitting at a bar or something. But it doesn't happen as often where that ends up being a date than going on a date with someone from an app and like that ending up being whatever.
Yeah, and I think with the apps, we talk about being real with each other, connections, and things like that. I'm not getting that from the guys.
Yeah.
But the other aspect is women are getting comfortable more in their skin in the last 20, 30 years, maybe even 40 years, because we're more educated now. Statistically, they're saying women are more educated than men right now.
More successful.
More successful. We're more career oriented. You know, we're more emotionally stable comparatively to what was back in the day. And I can't read off the statistics, but the articles are saying, some of them, that the women have this confidence, whereas the men are not feeling that as much.
Yeah.
Because some of them are feeling threatened by the success that women have. Yeah. And then what's happening is, because we women know what we want now, when we see this guy is doing XYZ, not to fit those, the effort, the communication, the chivalry, the concern, the respect, all of those things that we want. And sometimes there's no ambition with some of them, and they don't align with us, then it's harder for us to make those connections with those men.
You know, it's funny though, because a lot of those men are like, oh, I thought you're a feminist. Like, I don't need to hold the door open for you. And I'm like, that's not what this is. Like, we still want the chivalry. Like, open the door for us without having us to tell you, like, yeah, I can open my door. I do it every day. But like, it's just an effort. It's one little thing that will make me remember you. And I think that's what's lost, because guys are like, oh, well, I thought you can do everything yourself. And I'm like, yes, you're right. I can do everything for myself. So then why are you even here?
So what do you think needs to shift, or what do you think that needs to change?
That's a hard pill to swallow, what can shift, because we're here 30, 40 years later. If we were to go historically, what's happened with women, you know, we didn't have our own homes, we didn't have our own bank accounts, we couldn't have these there's just a list of things that we couldn't do before, and now we're able to do that. And it's just, is the opposite sex going to catch up with it mentally and not have that ego? You know, I don't know. And also the other thing is this mama's boy situation.
Oh my God, don't get me started on that. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us women don't want to be your mother.
Yeah.
We want to be your partner, your best friend. We want you to listen to us. I shouldn't have to tell you, go pick up the socks off the floor.
Oh, girl, that's still going to happen. I say I have 3 children. I don't say I have 2. I have 3. It doesn't matter what you say. Boys are still going to, well, I don't know. It's funny, when I have 2 brothers, and my parents, even though their generation was of a certain tradition, my parents were still quite ahead of their time in some ways. Everything in the house was done by all of us. The cooking, the cleaning, the housework, the DIY, washing the car, changing the oil, all of it. My brothers and I did it all. It wasn't like you're the boy, you're the girl. But to your point, Sonam, when I was with the extended family, the girls were in the kitchen helping, and the boys were watching TV. Yeah, so that part was really difficult for me. Yeah, but my brothers are probably better cooks and better cleaner than I am. But some boys, and I will openly say this, my husband was very kind of isolated in terms of what the roles of girls and boys were, because of the nature of his family at the time. And I had to open his eyes saying, I'm not picking up that glass for you. You can go put it in the kitchen. And he had to shift his mindset thinking, oh shit, I have to do this myself. And
So
in
that's
his
the thing.
mindset, yeah, in his mindset, a wife was a certain way. And I had to shift his mindset saying no. And I think by seeing it in at least in my immediate family with my brothers, that shifted it as well. Seeing my dad cook as well as my mum, for example, my dad clean up as well as my mum, those kind of things happen. And then in my kids' generation, I think making that flip helps as well.
I had similar in a sense. I think we all come from, we're the one girl and there's all these guys in our family, right? So
Yeah.
I came from two brothers, my dad, on a daily basis. And in the household, it was a split. Dad could cook, dad could do the dishes, dad would do the laundry if he had to. It was split. And then when it came to my brothers growing up, I did see my mom favored me to do all the chores versus the boys. And one day I made the argument, Mom, these boys are going to learn. They're going to need to learn one day when they get married. They're going to have to split, the chores themselves. And now when I look at them as husbands and with their families, it's even. They pick up the slack where they need to. They do. It's a joint effort. And I do see that difference. So I'm actually happy in that sense when I see it because the generation is changing in that aspect.
I think that's, I was going to ask Rashmi, like, how old was Manny when you had to open his eyes? Because I think the biggest thing is, like, I didn't grow up in that. But then my brother somehow learned how to cook and clean, and he's like very like ADD with like cleaning up. Like, he's a better cleaner than I am. But I don't,
I would
again,
say my brother's the same.
it's a changing part, right? Like, my brother chose to go that route. He changed because he found that easier on himself, right? I think what's hard with dating these days are, I'm not looking to change you and I don't want you to change me, right? But we need to, there's a little give, there's a little push and shove there. How much will I be willing to allow you to do something, right? Like, I could care less if there's socks on the floor because I'm that person that leaves my socks on the floor. Like, I'm definitely very like on the boy side of that. But it's like, what would be like, what's going to give? And I think that's what's about dating right now is nobody wants to change, but nobody wants to also acknowledge that there will eventually be change. Like, you both have to grow together. And when you grow, things change. And I think people are just stuck in their way that they're like, well, you need to accept me for who I am. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. But like, we are now finding things out about ourselves that we wouldn't have found out single. And that will cause us to change as a person. And I think I think with dating, I think a lot of men are scared, and probably women, but I think a lot of men are scared of that. And that's why they're like, I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want this. And I'm like, why does a relationship scare you? Oh, it's because you're going to change and you don't know how you're going to change. Like, that's a fear for you that there's going to be change involved in your life.
Well, I will say one of the things that I think about with both my kids going into relationships is as and when or if they find the person that they want to spend the rest of their life with, one of the things I will do is I will pay for pre-marriage counseling.
Yes.
I will pay for that. Will be my gift to them. I don't care about the wedding. I don't care about anything else. My gift to them will be these sessions where they go in and they have those difficult conversations, which during your dating period you don't want to have because you don't want to mess up this fun and free time. But those kind of conversations, when you know that this relationship is getting serious, are so important. So that when it comes to creating these compromises, you know how much of a compromise you're willing to make. Having those tough conversations about, do you want kids? And if so, how many? Where you're going to live? In-laws, likes, dislikes, all of that stuff. Having those difficult conversations are so important beforehand.
Well, do you think that, the way we were taught about marriage and dating and our culture, do you think it didn't allow us to have those communication skills in general, or have those therapy sessions that we needed in order to make sure we had healthy relationships, not just in dating, but also in friendships, right?
Maybe.
That's another aspect of it. But
I think there's a lot of assumptions.
Right, but going back to your point, a lot of people will go into these relationships and they don't know how to have those conversations, right?
Yeah.
Because they just never learned it. And I think our parents were like, this is how it's supposed to be. It can't change.
Exactly, exactly. And you learn then on the job, which is the hardest part.
It's funny, going back to our fertility conversation. I mean, I said that I don't want kids, right? And I'm now very open and vocal about it because I'm comfortable with my decision. And when it comes to dating, it is a conversation I have with the date, because I'm like, if kids is definitely something that you want, I'm still open to having children, but you need to do this, this, and this. Like, I can't have you like go on like golf trips all the time. Like, I'm not going to be the one that's always taking care of the kid. Like, this is a 50-50 job, you know, like you cannot always expect the women to always take care of the child. And I think, again, with the male's upbringing, that's what they were always taught. Like, you provide the money and then the female will be providing the support for the children and feed them and do this and this. And now that I'm having the conversations with my parents, they're still like, what do you mean you don't want kids? We want grandchildren. I'm like, excuse me, first of all, their kids live with me. I have to take care of the children. You're going to spoil them. And then at one point, my children are going to outlive you and they still live with me. So that's so selfish of you saying, I want grandchildren. You already have a set of grandkids. Like, you don't need a set
yeah,
for me.
I think having grandchildren is a nice thing, but I think that they should want you to have the kids versus you to have kids just so that they could be
But think about it. It's a pattern, right? They were taught marriage, kids get married, and then you're now grandparents. It's like it's just this cycle. Like, all right, now this is ticked off, what's the next thing? Whereas for me, my tick off is, I just worked with this brand deal. Tick, I just made this much money with this, you know, whatever. I think it's those patterns that we need to kind of divert, because there is so much more to life than dating and being with boys and girls and having children and marriage and stuff. And I think in our culture, marriage and children is this like stamp of, you're an adult now. I'm 33 and aunties and uncles don't think I'm an adult. Seriously. And I'm like, I'm 33 years old. I have a job. I've moved to another country. I have a business. And you still don't see me as an adult? That's crazy.
No, but I'm 47. Imagine I go to these functions or these events with family, friends, you know.
No.
Bichari.
Oh, bichari.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, listen, that's a different conversation because I'm 47. There's a whole lot to unpack on that one. But
so much
I just don't think you should be asking those questions to anybody. If anything, oh, beta, how's everything going in life? That should be your question.
It's the tea. They just want to gossip.
Yeah. The chai vibe, whatever.
You know what's funny? I'm always like, why do I need to get married? And the aunties and uncles are always like, oh, but I don't want you to be alone. And then I look at them knowing that they have a pretty bad relationship. And I'm like, but auntie, aren't you alone and you're in a relationship?
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, what?
Do you know how? Okay, I worked in an industry where I was exposed to various weddings, and whatever I did was I would sit there would be auntie sitting in a chair. Oh, so how many children do you have? And my answer would be, well, I don't have children yet and I haven't gotten married. The next thing is, you did a smart thing. And these are 70 plus year old women, 60 plus year old women that have gone through marriages, have children, have grandchildren, and their now next child is getting married that day. And I'd go home, I'd be laughing. I'm like, did they just say that to me? But I will say,
that's a needle in a haystack type of person, though. There's not many of those.
Right. And so when I listen to that, and then I see observations of other people that are telling me XYZ on what they think, I'm like, well, then it's not all cracked up to be. So why do I need to identify with that? What's making me happy is I'm doing things for myself.
We haven't really spoken much about the marriage side. So Rashmi.
Oh my God, we need a whole episode.
I know, we definitely need it. I mean, I think we have to keep this short since we're getting at the end. But why don't we do two things? What was like the positives? This is the beginning, right before you were getting married or during your marriage. The positives of that? And then what are some like negatives, not the relationship part, but just of like the marriage piece? You know, you have this legal document now, and there's more, I guess, emphasis on that relationship now.
So you mean the concept of marriage as opposed to the marriage itself?
I guess like, because you've been married for a long time, so you always had this person with you, right? Like you have to work together, you know, if Manny's on his work leave, or if you're going to an event or something, you need this constant conversation, right? But like when I hear when people are married, a lot of my friends are always, this is really sad, honestly. My friends would be like, oh, hold on, let me ask so-and-so if it's okay for me to do this. And I'm like, that's okay for you to do it. He's like been on like 4 golf trips right now, and he didn't even ask you. So I guess it's kind of like, how does it work for you in that
Do you
aspect?
navigate it?
The both of you are extremely busy, and you have 2 children on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I am grateful for is that I didn't have to do apps, because again, I'm a real person type of person. I have to meet people in real life. It was also hard though, because you're being introduced by people and you go through a lot of frogs before you find your prince, so to speak. And then even then, navigating all of that is really hard. I think I say this very openly. Before I met my now husband, I had gone through a really difficult relationship where it was emotionally abusive. So I was still traumatized by that when I met my husband. But when I met him, it was through friends. And then the wedding happened quite quickly because, again, you know, as soon as you tell I started dating him before, to your point, Priya, I dated him without telling my parents for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to make sure it was the right person before I told them because of the previous example. And also, I didn't want to make too much of a deal of it. But as soon as I did tell them, I told my mum first, but when I told my dad, it was like, okay, when am I meeting him? And so when they met him, everything kind of rolled quite fast after that.
Yeah.
And so when we got married, I was still trying to navigate, first of all, myself and my mental state and the trauma I had gone through. And so it was very hard for me to communicate. And then I started doing therapy, and that helped me communicate better. And when it came to the marriage, I mean, it took us 10 years for us to have kids, and we talked about it in the previous episodes about fertility. But when it comes to the marriage, communication is key. So he never asked me, can I go out with so-and-so, as in for permission.
Right.
It's more, am I able to go because are we free, and do you have the kids, or do we need to get a sitter? It's more the logistics. Okay. So we never ask for permission as such. It's more, can I go out on this night, as in, are you going to be home to deal with the kids, or do I have to get a sitter? Or are you available on this night because both of us are going to go to this whatever event or date? So it's that aspect. So for me, communication is key, and it should never be about permission. It should be about an understanding. So yes, when he's away for a whole week, he will always check with me first. Can I book this trip? You know, is anything happening that I need to help you with, or we need to do together? And if so, what can we do to make sure that it's easier for you when you're home alone with the kids, and vice versa?
It sounds like there's consideration and respect.
Yes, there has to be. Oh my God, there has to be. There has to be.
I think we lost that,
respect.
honestly.
Yeah, and I think
Really?
that's what's happening, because I see that with other I literally was with some couple a few weeks ago, and she said, the wife says, oh, you said this, Sonam, you hear a lot, let me go ask him.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, wait a second, what? And it goes straight to that point. These guys are just doing whatever they want, and there's no consideration or respect for their other half.
Can I also say, I think a lot of people, and I think we saw it mostly in COVID because there was a huge divorce rate after that. A lot of people also
wonder why. Sorry, I shouldn't joke about
think,
it. But like, you're literally living with your partner 24/7.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people jumped into relationships without, like, just to be in a relationship. And again, I think it's a cultural thing too. And universally, I think everyone looks down upon you if you're not married, you know, by a certain age or something. Or if they wanted kids, right? So like their clock factors in. And I think people got married just to get married, and they didn't work on their communication. No. And then when you bring kids in that, like, it's just, you're now creating a generation of children that are kind of has PTSD now, you know? Like, they're growing up in this household where it's always kind of on edge. And I feel like I would rather be single because I know how I want to treat myself. I know how I want to be treated. I know there's great men out there. Again, I have 9 amazing brothers in my life that I see how they treat their wives or girlfriends and stuff. And I'm like, I know that one of them is out there for me, but in that aspect, I don't want to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship, because then I need to nurture something that like doesn't reciprocate that same nurture back to me. And then what, I'm going to be on my like 5th job at that point. I already have enough jobs at this moment.
All right, so if you were going to give, say, top 2 tips or words of advice to someone who's navigating this world of dating and potentially finding their lifelong partner, what would they be, Sonam? And then you, Priya.
I mean, I don't jump into a relationship just to be in a relationship. Like, you don't be in a relationship because you don't want to be known as a single person. And I think it also goes back to inner child trauma as well, like to be alone, people looking at you as being alone. But take a step back. You're not alone. You created a community around you. You have friendships. You have all of this. Those are relationships. Just because you don't have a man or a female by your side, a partner, that doesn't mean you're alone. And whoever you have by your side, they need to be in it 100% and vice versa. But you need to communicate with each other, and it needs to be reciprocated back.
For me, it's not compromising your self-identity. So if you feel like you're in a relationship that it's chipping away from that, you should know the signs.
Yes.
You should know the signs, you know, so it's important to keep that in mind. But also, I always love this. Someone taught me this many years ago, and I love it. It goes, you create your own happiness, but having someone else in your life is just a little extra happiness.
Ooh, I like that.
So it's just it's the icing on the cake a little bit, but you can also have your own, you can do your own icing too.
They're just like the sprinkles. They're the sprinkles,
yeah,
a little extra.
So I think people should keep that in mind.
I love that.
What about
and
you?
And then I mean, I would just say, even once you're in a relationship, communication is absolute key. If you are in a position to do so, go and have those difficult conversations, whether it be with someone you trust or a mediator or a therapist, whatever it is. Have those difficult conversations, because it's better to have them before you solidify that relationship rather than after. It's still possible, but it's work. Marriage is not easy. I'm not going to say it's all bed of roses, but it's when it works, it's beautiful, and when it doesn't, you need to know how to navigate the ups and downs. And, you know, I echo what Priya's saying. When you realize something's not right, see if there's anything you can do to fix it. But if you can't, and you've tried everything you can, know it's okay to step away too.
Yep.
You know, it's all tough, and you want to make sure that someone's next to you who's going to support you, not be against you.
All right. If there's anything you could take away, make sure you communicate. And if you're single, hit me and Priya up.
Gosh, the dating profiles will be in the caption below.
Was this our bio data?
Yes. Well,
I think so. Well, I think our bio data is our first episode. If you want our bio data, go to our first episode.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining. If you like this episode, please follow Press Room or like us.
Share it to
with your friends and family. If you have any questions, hit us up with DMs, Press Room on Instagram, or any of our individuals. It's fine. One of us will answer. But thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Press Room, a room where all are welcome.
All are welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Please remember that the content shared on this podcast reflects our personal experiences and perspectives. We are not providing professional advice in any field, including but not limited to creative pursuits, career guidance, or fertility matters. Our aim is simply to share our stories and connect with others who may be navigating similar journeys. Always seek guidance from qualified professionals for specific advice tailored to your individual circumstances. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice.